Do you know what time it is? I do. It's time for Drummer Daily. Hey there. Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me. My name is Daniel Hadaway. And today I want to talk to you about something that I noticed on social media. I think it was in a Facebook group a while ago. Maybe it was a couple of weeks ago. But I kind of got involved into a discussion or a little bit got involved in a discussion. And then I realized, man, I don't like talking about... I was going to say I don't like talking about controversial issues because they always devolve into just a big disagreement or big argument. But I realized this one necessarily wasn't something that I thought was going to turn into a big argument. So I gracefully bowed out of this discussion quite quickly. But I did watch what was being said. It was really interesting to me. And so anyway, I'll just give you the specifics and then I'll talk about what I kind of came away from it with. So someone posted in a Facebook group, a drummer's Facebook group, saying, hey, when the band leader asks you to play in, when the band leader asks you to play in 3/4, what are they asking for? And I realized, at first I thought a lot of people were replying, kind of being smart Alex and saying, he's talking about time signature or whatever. But I realized that might have actually been the question, is I don't know what 3/4 even means, And so that was one of the answers. But the answer that I gave, I replied to that after a bunch of other replies and said, in my experience, and this actually was, I think it was involved with a worship leader at a church. But I said, in my experience, where I'm at, which is again, Nashville, Tennessee. In my experience, when a leader like that asks you to play in 3, what they're really most of the time, 90% of the time asking you for, really is playing in 6/8, in the 6/8 time signature, which is a little different. So 3/4 would be 1, 2, 3, 1, dun, 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 like a waltz or something. And then 6/8 would be more like a traditional drum pattern, but just broken into 3. So it'd be like kick, 2, 3, snare, 2, 3, kick, 2, 3, snare, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is how you would count that. Anyway, I said that, and a bunch of people were like, saying, what kind of leader doesn't know the difference between 3/4 and 6/8? They should go back to school, blah, blah, blah. And I realize a lot of that might have to do with perspective, because I live in Nashville, and there's a lot of people who are really, really great musicians, and they know how to play music, but they may not know how to write out notation and time signatures. And a lot of the best professional musicians that I know never even went to school or never learned about any of that stuff. They just know how to play it and can listen by ear and figure things out. But the other thing was, there was a group of people who responded to basically the same way, and they all said, if a music director or a producer or anybody asks me to play in 3/4, I'm playing in 3/4 because that's what they asked for. If they want me to play in 6/8, they need to ask me to play in 6/8. And a few of the responses, the way, I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but I do remember that it was basically them saying, if someone asks me to play in 3/4, I know in certain situations I'm going to know that they actually want me to play in 6/8, but because they use the words 3/4, I'm going to basically play 3/4 because that's what they said, even though I know that's not what they actually want. And that might work if you're in a band or you're with a friend and you're trying to prove a point or something, but that is the opposite of what you should be doing if you are trying to become a professional drummer. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to make today, is your job as a drummer and my job as a drummer in any professional situation, or really any situation where you're not the leader of the band and you're not the one, calling all the shots, is to give the producer or the music director, I'm just going to say producer for this episode of the podcast, but you give the producer what he or she really wants, not what they're asking for. Because there's a lot of times that there aren't words that are adequate or completely correct or descriptive enough to be specific about what exactly it is that they want. Words are just used to describe a thought. And a lot of times the thoughts that we have are a lot more complex than the words we have to describe them. In the same way, many times the musicians that I work with, they don't know how to put into words what they want. But as an intuitive person, I can, based on the context and other things that I understand about music, I can kind of get the idea behind what they're trying to say, even if they can't say it exactly right. And that drastically increases my value as a drummer in any kind of musical situation. It is, I am able to give other people what they want, not necessarily what they're asking for, especially if there's a disconnect between those two things. So your job as a drummer is to understand the underlying thought behind what someone is asking for and provide that to them, even if you're not doing exactly what they're saying. I'll give you another example. In the studio, many times, a producer, especially ones who are not drummers or don't have any background playing drums, will ask me to play something that physically is impossible. What do I mean by that? I mean, they will ask me to play something that will include a hi-hat hit, a snare drum hit, and a tom hit all at the same time, which means I would have to have 3 hands, 3 arms in order to play that. So because of that, I could spend a lot of time trying to prove a point and show them why that's not right. That can't be done or whatever. Or I can try to find my own way of creating that sound they're going for, whether or not it's exactly on those 3 drums or not. And 9 times out of 10, it's not the specifics of what the guy is asking me for that I'm trying to go for. It's the specific sound or vibe that he's asking for. He just doesn't know how to put that into words. It's much easier just to say, play this drum part. And so it takes a certain amount of confidence on my part to be able to not ignore, but take with a grain of salt what someone is asking for and then give them something different. And it's not arrogance. It's just actually a deep, humble desire to give somebody else what they really, really want. It's trying to serve the song and serve the producer or the artist at a deeper level than what words can merely express. And if you can do that as a drummer, like I said, your value is just going to skyrocket to that other person. And you're going to end up being the only drummer they ever want to work with. Not to pat myself on the back, but there have been many times that I've worked with musicians in certain contexts, not all the time, but they've said, hey, man, Daniel, you're the only drummer that I want to work with from now on. And the reason why they say that, I promise you, is because I'm just trying to give them what they want, not necessarily what they're asking for. So that's a little secret there. If you want to drastically increase your value to other musicians, try to be more intuitive with what you're providing to other people. And don't get hung up on what you think is the best. Try to give other people what they want. That really is the key to becoming a professional musician, but it's also just the key to becoming a strongly desired musician amongst other musicians. So I hope this inspires you and gives you a little bit of direction. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about some specific ways to change your playing in tomorrow's episode of the podcast. So I can't wait for you to join me then. Bye for now.